The internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Let's get started again.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
To get up to like $68,000, my heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
Welcome to Voices of Global Freedom Radio. We are broadcasting from San Diego, California, Saturday, July the 4th, 2015. This is Backpack Helping Carrier Load and our co-host Yoda bringing the force to patriots. We bring our patriotic conservative audience news you can use and actionable tactics, methods, and strategies to survive and thrive in these dangerous, troubled times. Confidential tips and information, call 619-354-3665, 619-354-3665. We are proud to be syndicated with the popular radio networks, the Spark Radio Network, K98 Talk, Leading Edge Radio Network, Reach Out America Radio, Aurora Restoration of America Radio, LibertyTalk.fm. Yoda, how are you doing today?
I am doing great, brother. Thank you. Man, we are syndicating, aren't we?
We really are. We're honored and privileged to be on so many networks.
Wonder how many stations we're going out through now throughout the week. Would you dare guess?
Well, we're all, I would say, in the thousands, and many on social media.
We're doing good, thanks to your effort. I am the luckiest guy in the world to be living not just here in San Diego, but in America, the land of the free. As you know, some of our audience knows, I visited 110 countries when I quit counting. There's about 200 countries in the world. You take a little bit from each country, but here is the place to be. There's nowhere like it. Friend of ours, Omar, more on him later. What did Omar say? Something like that this is the worst country in the world, except for all the other ones, Backpack.
Yeah, happy July 4th to all our listeners. It's an honor and privilege to be living in this country because we've all been to a lot of hellholes on our travels. I've been to Palestine, Israel. Well, Israel's a pretty good place, but some of the places near it is Palestine is a real hellhole. And I know, Yoda, you've been to, how many hellholes have you been to?
I didn't count them up on the basis of hellholes, but some come to mind. Many then, due to great travel agents, turn into destinations. Belize comes to mind. Ghana comes to mind. Anyway, take a look, folks, please, at magnifiedview.com, our sister magazine. We put an article up yesterday that has had 24,000 hits in 20 hours, man. Magnifiedview.com. So, good audience without which we wouldn't be a radio program. Take a look at our sister magazine, please. What have we got today? What have you scheduled, Brother co-host?
Well, our topic is ISIS and Muslim Brotherhood killing Christians all across the world. If they had their thing with their global caliphate, they're going to kill all the Christians. We're honored and privileged to be talking with Dr. Ashraf Ramallah, who is the leader of Voice of the Cops.org, which is voice of the COPTS.org. To give a background about the Coptic religion, it is a church in Alexandria, Egypt, and is the largest Christian church in the Middle East. According to tradition, this church was established by St. Mark, an apostle and evangelist in the middle of the first century, so AD 42. So we're talking about a couple thousand years ago. The head of the Alexandria church is the Patriarch of Alexandria on the Holy See of St. Mark. The See of Alexandria is nowadays the Coptic Pope. He's considered a pope in Egypt. About 10% of the population of Egypt has been historically Coptic Christians. We've seen a lot has changed since then. The church belongs to the Oriental Orthodox family of churches. It's a distinct church body since the fall of the Council of Chalcedon in AD 451. It took a different position over Christological theology from that of the Eastern Orthodox Church. So it's been around a lot of years. And what are your thoughts about the faith of the Coptic Orthodox Church?
If I'm not mistaken, brother, it was pre-Catholicism.
Yeah, it's really...
I think it's pre-everything. It was the original Christian church, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was, and it's been around for so many years. So we're gonna be talking live from Italy, where Dr. Ashraf Ramallah has had to move to under duress, being in Egypt. He is the founder and president of Voice of the Cops. It's a human rights nonprofit organization, 501c3, and the organization has offices in Italy and the United States. Dr. Ramallah is dedicated to the Coptic cause and believes that his life mission is to speak up for the oppressed Copts who cannot speak up for themselves. He meets with political figures and policymakers, and he's right now trying to get the current president of El-Sisi, is the president of Egypt, to speak to a joint sessions of Congress here in the United States. Let's hope that happens so that you can talk about persecuted Christians all across the Middle East.
The bastards are killing thousands. We're about to run out of Christians in the Middle East, really. We'll have to start all over again.
Some of the statistics in Iraq I'm hearing are the number of Christians in Iraq has gone down at least by 50%, probably more, with ISIS coming in and just killing everybody that they don't like.
And who counts, man? Let's talk to the good doctor.
And one of the slug lines for Voice of the Cops is they fight the spread of Islamic supremacy and Sharia throughout the Western world through education, impact, and action. Without further ado, we're going to play our talk with Dr. Ramallah, leader, and he's started out in Egypt and moved to Italy at a young age, and he's starting a new political party, and he is the president and founder of voiceofcops.com.
Is he calling in today? Where's he at, Ron?
He's calling in live from Rome and just had a beautiful meal last night.
I'll bet he did.
Yeah.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening to you, and good evening to all your listeners, and I really honored to be with you today.
Molto grazie. We are equally honored. Tell us a little about yourself, if you will, Doctor.
Well, I was born in Egypt, in Cairo, at the age of 16 and half, 17, I don't remember, I'm getting old now, I left Egypt going to Italy. In Italy, I studied architecture. I became doctor in architecture in 1977. I work with various companies. I work in Saudi Arabia for a couple of, I could say 1 year, going back and forth from Rome to Taif, a city north of Jeddah. I did some work in Gabon in Africa and other places. In 1992, for various political reasons happening in Italy, I decided to come to the United States. I started my own business there, and after that, I decided to work with someone in New York. And sadly, immediately after my arrival to New York, about 6 months later, we have this tragedy of September 11. And since then, I started to be very interested in the situation about Islam and about terrorists and what's happening in the world, especially in the Western world, since that a lot of people, for sure, they don't understand anything about Islam, not because they are ignorant, but just because they don't know their language, Arabic language. In order to understand Islam, you need to understand Arabic, so nobody could deceive you. A few months ago, I realized that I realized that from quite a bit of time, but a few months ago, I decided with a couple of friends of mine that they care about Europe and they care about Italy to start a new political party in Italy, hoping not to reach power, but hoping to reach the level of stopping Islamic invasion to Italy and to Europe and be kind of front line for the United States of America.
Dr. Ashraf, Coptic Christian leader, we are really proud of you. Tell us about your party.
Well, it is starting now, just born. Technically, we are, I could say that our program, we are not from the right, we are not from the left, we are for Italy. I could say our party is, I could say, the unique party, maybe in Europe, but certainly in Italy, that we are clearly declared that we are pro-Israel and we are against Islamic invasion, besides the other political and economical things that technically any political party is supposed to address.
What year did you leave Italy, and what were the dangers facing Coptic Christians in Egypt when you left compared to 2014 Coptic Christians and their dangers?
Well, I left for Italy back in 1968, and I mean, the problem at that time, I grew up, technically speaking, with the coup of 1952, that the Arabs call it the revolution, I call it coup. And at that time, the influence of Muslim Brotherhood was not really the way that we have it right now. But, I mean, personally, I went always in Christian schools. I remember till, I could say, the fourth grade, we used to go to school Friday and we were off Sunday. Around the fourth grade, they tried to force us to close. They tried to force the schools to close on Friday and be open on Sunday. Didn't work. So technically, all my study from elementary school to high school in Egypt, I was taking vacation. I could say Friday and Sunday, just to please the both parties. Concerning the danger, I could say it's completely different than the situation right now. But going, for example, at the age of 10, 11, to church by myself, you have the strange feeling that you may not coming alive from the church, without nobody saying anything, without parents never talk about it. That was very strange feeling that every time you go to church, you feel that maybe there is a bomb there or something going very bad to happen. I couldn't say anything about the life, working life, because I went to Italy when I was a student, but I could say any Christian living in Egypt live as a foreigner. And it's very funny for me because I was foreigner in Italy before I became Italian citizen, and when I arrived to the United States, I was foreigner. I still foreigner, despite that I am illegal, permanent resident in the United States. But the interesting thing for one like me that I never have the same feeling between Italy and the United States as a foreigner in those two countries, that they are not really my birthplace. The two countries that I love, I could say, was maybe different than my feeling to Egypt, but I feel, connected to these two countries because overall in Italy, I learned freedom. I learned freedom of speech. I learned about freedom of thinking. I learned more than anything else, freedom of religion, as well in the United States. But when I arrived to the United States, I was mature enough and know what that means, all this freedom issues that I talked about before.
We're going to take a short break with Dr. Ashraf Ramallah, who is the head of the Coptic Christians, and we're going to tell you about what Islam is all about. Let's see, we're going to find that on YouTube here shortly. We worked closely with IQ Razuli, who's been on a previous show with Voices of Global Freedom, and he helped put this video together, which is going viral. It's gotten tens of thousands of views. It really tells the truth of what Islam really is, and there's no denying the facts that Islam is the cult of war. And we're going to play that for y'all.
Please forward a link to this video so that people may learn the basics of Islam. And please keep in mind that the term Islamophobia is an oxymoron, since having a phobia means having an irrational fear. Fearing Islam, which wants 80% of humanity enslaved or exterminated, is totally rational, and hence cannot possibly be called a phobia. This video is not limited to any one religion, but the following is true. The shoe bomber was a Muslim. The Beltway snipers were Muslims. The Fort Hood shooter was a Muslim. The underwear bomber was a Muslim. The USS Cole bombers were Muslims. The Madrid train bombers were Muslims. The Bali nightclub bombers were Muslims. The London subway bombers were Muslims. The Moscow theater attackers were Muslims. The Boston Marathon bombers were Muslims. The Pan Am Flight number 93 bombers were Muslims. The Air France and Entebbe hijackers were Muslims. The Iranian embassy takeover was by Muslims. The Beirut U.S. embassy bombers were Muslims. The Libyan U.S. embassy attack was by Muslims. The Buenos Aires suicide bombers were Muslims. The Israeli Olympic team attackers were Muslims. The Kenyan U.S. embassy bombers were Muslims. The Saudi Khobar Towers bombers were Muslims. The Beirut Marine Barracks bombers were Muslims. The Beshan Russian school attackers were Muslims. The First World Trade Center bombers were Muslims. The Bombay Mumbai India attackers were Muslims. The Achille Lauro cruise ship hijackers were Muslims. The Nairobi, Kenya shopping mall killers were Muslims. The September 11th, 2001 airline hijackers were Muslims. The Sydney, Australia Lint Cafe kidnapper was a Muslim. The Peshawar Pakistani school children killers were Muslims. Think of it. Hindus living with Jews, no problem. Baha'is living with Jews, no problem. Jews living with atheists, no problem. Sikhs living with Hindus, no problem. Hindus living with Baha'is, no problem. Christians living with Jews, no problem. Jews living with Buddhists, no problem. Shintos living with atheists, no problem. Buddhists living with Sikhs, no problem. Baha'is living with Christians, no problem. Buddhists living with Shintos, no problem. Buddhists living with Hindus, no problem. Hindus living with Christians, only a rare problem. Atheists living with Buddhists, no problem. Confucians living with Hindus, no problem. Atheists living with Confucians, no problem. Muslims living with Jews, problem. Muslims living with Sikhs, problem. Muslims living with Hindus, problem. Muslims living with Baha'is, problem. Muslims living with Shintos, problem. Muslims living with Buddhists, problem. Muslims living with Christians, problem. Muslims living with Muslims, very big problem. So this led to, they're not happy in Gaza. They're not happy in Egypt. They're not happy in Libya. They're not happy in Iran. They're not happy in Iraq. They're not happy in Yemen. They're not happy in Pakistan. They're not happy in Syria. They're not happy in Lebanon. They're not happy in Nigeria. They're not happy in Kenya. They're not happy in Sudan. They're not happy in Morocco. And they're not happy in Afghanistan. So where are they happy? They're happy in Australia. They're happy in Belgium. They're happy in France. They're happy in Holland. They're happy in Italy. They're happy in Germany. They're happy in Spain. They're happy in Sweden. They're happy in Denmark. They're happy in the USA and Canada. They're happy in Norway and India. They're very happy in England. Loads of welfare benefits. They're happy in almost every country that is not Islamic. And who do they blame? Not Islam. Not their leadership. Not themselves. They blame the countries they are happy in. And they want to change the countries they're happy in to be like the countries they came from where they were unhappy. Islamic Jihad, an Islamic terror organization. ISIS, an Islamic terror organization. Al-Qaeda, an Islamic terror organization. Taliban, an Islamic terror organization. Boko Haram, an Islamic terror organization. Al-Nusra, an Islamic terror organization. Abu Sayyaf, an Islamic terror organization. Al-Badr, an Islamic terror organization. Muslim Brotherhood, an Islamic terror organization. Lashkar-e-Taiba, an Islamic terror organization. Ansaru, an Islamic terror organization. Jama'ah Islamiyah, an Islamic terror organization. Abdullah Azam Brigades, an Islamic terror organization. Al-Shabaab Somalia, an Islamic terror organization. And this is just scratching the surface on Islamic terrorism. There are more, lots more. Please forward a link to this video to help spread the word that virtually all terrorism today throughout the world is Islamic, and risk being called a hate monger for telling the truth about Islamic hate mongers. Thank you from author IQ Al-Rasuli.
Wow, what a great explanation of the cult of war that Islam is. What are your thoughts, Yoda?
My word, Al-Rasuli is a fascinating guy. He hides in Europe. Got a big price on his head.
On our last episode,
From a whole bunch of Islam organizations. He offered the Brotherhood and CARE $1 million to prove him wrong in debate or otherwise on any of the points he makes. And as yet, they haven't called on him to pick up $1 million US, brother.
Yeah, they know that they're not going to win. He's studied 20, 30 years. He's been studying the Quran, and he realizes that he was tortured in Iraq, and he realizes that he became a Christian, and he knows the truth about what's going on, that Islam is pulling the sheep over the sheeple's eyes.
What? How's that piece gone viral? How's that getting out there? I know you put it out there on YouTube. What's it happening out there?
Well, just to date, it's gotten over 40,000 listens because there's no denying the facts, and people are just spreading it and sharing it and really waking up to the threats that ISIS wants a global caliphate, and that they're living in the 7th century, and they're trying to get their stuff by taking over the world. That's really what they are.
Thus is caliphate. I don't want to follow a goat around. Let's get back to your Coptic religious guy, should we?
Yeah, we're back with Dr. Ashraf Ramallah calling in from Egypt.
Dr. Ashraf Ramallah, please tell our audience about the Coptic Christian religion.
Well, first of all, let me try to explain the word Coptic, where the word Coptic comes from. Prior to the invasion of Arab Muslims from the Peninsula Arab back in 641, Egyptian living in Egypt was Christians. And the reason that they became Christians back in 68, some mark the writer of one of our Gospels, the Gospel of Mark, came from the Holy Land, went to Alexandria of Egypt, and he started the Christian knowledge or Christian faith in the part. For my study, it was easy to switch from the atheist, the pagan religion that Egyptians used to believe, to Christianity, because also Egyptians at certain time they were believing in one God, the sun God. So for them, I understand that Christianity was almost the same belief that they believed in, that there is life after the death and all this things that we believe in Christianity. When Islam arrived to Egypt, Arab Muslims were not able to pronounce the Greek nomination of Egypt that was called Egyptus. So from the word Egyptus, the Arabs took out the E in the beginning and the S in the end, and they start to call the people living in Egypt Qibtis. And this is the pronunciation in Arabic language and translated in English to Copts. So technically speaking, the real Egyptians, that they are not mixed with any kind of other races, are the Copt, the Christian of Egypt. That I am one of them. That technically my grandparents was rich and paid jizya instead of converted to Christianity. But in the meantime, there are Christians that convert to Christianity, to Islam, that they became Muslim today or then, and technically they are Copts as well, because the word Copts, it means Egyptian. But now Muslim was very used to indicate that these people, they are not Muslims, are Christians, they call them Copts. And this is the the relevant right now of this word that everybody using. It's not a religion. Copts is a citizenship. The Orthodox Church was the Coptic Orthodox Church in Egypt was one of the 5 churches that started immediately after Jesus was risen.
Why did they convert to Islam?
Well, it was very simple. What's happening in Iraq and Syria today was happening in Egypt 641 years ago. When they arrived, they gave the people 3 choices. Or you became a Muslim, or you pay jizya, or we kill you. So same things happening today. And in my conversation with various people in the United States and of America, as well as in Italy right now, I tell the people that whatever happening in Syria and Iraq, we study it in elementary school, in middle school, in high school. It's the same story. It is written in text school in Egypt that we study it. So it's nothing new to me what's happening today. It is just repeating of the history repeating itself. And the sad thing is that thing is happening today. It happened 1,000 years ago or close to 1,000 years ago. And they believe that these people, that whatever they are doing in Iraq and Syria are Muslim fanatic or terrorist. It's not Muslim fanatic, it's not terrorist. These people studied very well the Quran and they following the Islamic doctrine.
We are going to a hard break.
Spend a minute with us about our good friends at Impact Analytics. That's the word impact stuck together with analytics.com. Our good friend, the chief executive officer there in Florida, Tim Caleb, has one of those offers you can't refuse directed to people that have a blog or a website or a lot of friends that have 1,000 or more email addresses. Impact Analytics takes those emails and joins them in a consortium with a lot of other people. This commands advertisers that are top drawer Fortune 500 corporations, because Tim presents them with a massive amount of emails like you audience out there that have 1,000 or more of them. So take a hard look, please, at impactanalytics.com. I say again, impactanalytics.com. It appears too good to be true, but I am here to tell you it isn't. Give the Chief Executive Officer, Tim Kalin, a call. Tell him that Voices of Global Freedom told you to give him a call, and good luck with that audience.
We are back with Dr. Ashraf Ramallah. We are going over what was the reasons for you to actually go to Italy and start the Voice of the Cops after you came to America?
I didn't start the Voice of the Cops in Italy because at the time I was, first of all, young man with no experience like today experience. And also, as any young person, I was looking for my future as a student. I was planning just to go ahead with my study. And the reason for me that I started really Voice of the Cops was the sad tragedy of 9/11. At that moment, I was thinking that somebody has to try to explain to the people in the West and the American people that the tragedy of 9/11 is just a start point for this kind of attack or this kind of invasion to the United States, or attacking against our freedom of religion and freedom of speech.
What are your thoughts about the caliphate in Iraq, Syria, and it going into attacking the United States and Europe? Where do you see that going?
Well, the caliphate, it is not new to me and other people that they are familiar with Arabic goals and their doctrine.
Hey, it's Flo, and this is my impression of someone calling into sports.
In the Quran is written that they are the best nation in the world, and they have to conquest the entire world. The entire world has to become Muslims. So what is happening in the Caliphate, and the same thing happened with the famous, quote-unquote, the Arab Spring. For me, it was not Arab Spring, it was Islamic revival. And what happened in the Caliphate is the same thing. It is Islamic revival, and they will try to extend their forces and their occupation to lands to go more and more and more. And one of their 100%, one of their goals is fighting against Israel and or terminate all the Jews from Israel or kick them out from Israel. It is part of the plans. Also, if they are not talking, how you call it, clearly about it, but when you read Arabic news and Arabic information, they are talking about it as well in that language, but not in English or Italian, in foreign language, Western language.
So tell our audience, who are the cops and why do they need to be defended and represented to the West?
Well, first of all, that the number of Coptic Christians living in Egypt is about 23 million persons. And it's very interesting to highlight this number because from the time of Nasser till the time of Morsi, and I don't know what Mr. Sisi will say about this number, they always try to give amount of quantity of Coptic Christian living in Egypt, like between 7 million, 8 million, 3 million. And it's very important for your audience that if we just make little comparison between what's happening against the Copts in Egypt and what about CARE saying about Muslims in the United States, CARE saying that Muslims in the United States almost reach 10% of the population in the United States. And I believe anybody looking for a little bit of information, Muslims in the United States is not more than 1.5 million. But they try to increase the number of Muslims in the United States is the opposite what they are doing in Egypt, that they try to decrease the number of Christians in Egypt and increase the number of Muslims in the United States just to the opposite indication. There they are nobody, they are a couple of millions who cares. Here we are getting 10%, so you have to hear our voice. The reason that I am trying not to defend the Copts of Egypt, but to be their voices, because they don't have freedom of speech. As well, they don't have a freedom of religion in Egypt. Because in order to build a church, takes them sometimes 30 years to get a permit to build a church. For example, if the church has the faucet and the sink of the church is leaking, till 5 years ago, the President of the Republic has to sign a permit that they could fix the faucets. The President of the Republic. In order to build a church in Egypt, there are laws back from 1700 and 1600 and 1800 with crazy things that the church cannot be built close the mosque, the church cannot be built in areas that there are Muslims, the church cannot be built next to a Muslim church, the church cannot be built next to railway station, railway. In the meantime, the mosque is growing in Egypt like mushrooms, and they don't have any law to say that you can build a mosque here or you cannot build a mosque there. And more important, and this maybe will shock some of your audience, people get arrested in Egypt if they pray inside their houses. You need to be 5-6 people sitting inside an apartment in Cairo or any place praying. And if their neighbor calls the police on them, they will be arrested because they are gathering, praying without permit.
Wow, that's amazing. We just went through that whole Arab Spring thing, and turned out to be went the opposite direction of what everybody was expecting, and it created that Muslim Brotherhood. And now the president of Morsi is in prison, and it's what's gone on with. What are your thoughts on the Arab Spring, and how are the Coptic Christians surviving in Egypt now? And now with Sisi taking over as the current president of Egypt, and Mubarak has been replaced. What is your thoughts on all that?
Well, I mean, if we go back and see how this Arab Spring started, from my point of view, there were a lot of energy, of forces coming out from third-party country, and I mean, I take the responsibility and say that the United States was one of these countries. And my personal idea about what's happening is that, if you recall, the Arab Spring started in Tunisia, a small country with about 12 million people. 99% of the population there are Muslims, so I don't know for what reason they need an Arab Spring, knowing that all the 21 Muslim countries in the Middle East, all of them have this dictatorship for 60, 70 years. So it is nothing new to the Western world to start this, to accept this new uprising people that they're looking for democracy, because these people, they don't know what is democracy is. That's number one. But let me go with my thinking here. Starting in Egypt, they got a little bit of succeed. Then they moved towards Libya, and we know what happened there. And Gaddafi was a president since September 1st, 1969, and was a friend with all the presidents of the world. He came to Rome, he came to the United States, and he was sleeping his tent. Then the big uprising in Egypt, and if we could just analyze what happened in January 25th, 2011, we could see that people went in Egypt, copying a little bit what happened in Tunisia, looking for democracy and looking for freedom. They never asked that Mubarak has to be removed or Mubarak has to be judged in the court. Nobody asked about that. Then in January 25th, in February 11th, when Mubarak start to understand that his forces cannot keep him there, besides the President of the United States called and make a statement that Mr. Mubarak has to step down, something happened in Egypt. Suddenly, there were attacks against prisons, Muslim Brotherhood, that there were inside the prisons. They were let free, including the former President Morsi, that he was in jail. And very interesting to highlight is that at the door of the jail, somebody handed to him an international phone. In Egypt at that moment, there was no internet, no phone working. Mr. Morsi had a telephone that contacted Al Jazeera, a Qatar, a radio TV from Qatar, and had a nice interview with them about the uprising, the revolution, whatever. In January 11th, after Mubarak stood down, Muslim Brotherhood raised the uprising, and they had a lot of electoral fraud. And it's very sad to say that I got some information around the election of Morsi that Morsi was not elected by the people. Morsi was Ahmad Shafiq, the general military general that he was running against Morsi. He is the one that he won the election. But funny thing is that a lot of information coming from Egypt saying that the President of the United States called in and requested that Morsi became the President of Egypt.
Wow, Yoda, what do you think about Obama getting Morsi was head of Muslim Brotherhood, terrorist organization since 1928? What do you think about that?
Well understood that this administration created the so-called Muslim Spring, or the Arab Spring, which quickly became the Arab Winter. So it's been a tragedy. This president insisted that the first two rows of a meeting in Cairo be occupied by Brotherhood executives. That's well understood and proven. Brother Sisi, the current president, the military guy, held his ground and said no. Well, President Obama then threatened not to come to that meeting. And the Sisi said, well, we're going to miss you dearly, but there still won't be two front rows of the evil Brotherhood here. That's the real of it. It's been a disaster. It's created all the turmoil now, and if you track it chronologically, evolved through the Brotherhood two Al-Qaeda elements, which now evolved matriculated to ISIS. So that is easily found with minimal 8th grade research all over the internet corroborated. That's the basis of what happened. No one can understand why President Obama wanted the Arab Spring. It could have come to nothing. It's come to worse than anybody's imagined. These countries have been run by families for years, by despots, by tyrants. This is what they do there. They all claim to be direct descendants of Mohammed the Prophet. If you count them up, he's got a lot of direct descendants, but this is how Islam operates now in almost 50 of the world's 200 countries. That's a lot of countries. They are hell-bent for a caliphate. The last one in 2025, the Ottoman Empire in Turkey. So it's gone from the way they behave to now the way they're behaving worse with ISIS. All of these despots, Gaddafi, Hussein, were cooperating closely with our intelligence community, Britain's and Germany's, because this is precisely what the tyrants were afraid of. But the world was better off with tyrants, certainly, than it is now with the damn ISIS. Their atrocities are unimaginable, aren't they, Backpack?
Yeah, they keep coming up with new things. They put people in cages and do horrific things. The latest thing they did, they put some Christians in a cage and they drowned them in the cage. They're just coming up with new things. And they're doing 90,000 tweets a day. And we're looking at ways to shut that down and how we can look at they've got a huge PR campaign that has really brought a lot of the people. Yoda, how many people from other countries are going to ISIS and working with them?
Oh, excellent question. Who counts? You know, there's an established 200 of them from the United States that are now in Syria and Iraq fighting with ISIS. They are not the guy next door that's captain of the soccer team. They are really raised here under their quiet Sharia law in mosques and elsewhere. Most of them are second generation, many born here, but their parents are originally from Somalia, some from the rest of North Africa, the Arabian Peninsula. So the press isn't getting out. They're painting it like it's the guy and girl next door, the prom queen. It's not at all. They're born into fierce Islam and they continue through that. That's who's really going over. That's who are also now the so-called lone wolves that are threatening us here. They're not the guy next door. They are Islam born and raised quietly among us and in their couple thousand mosques.
Well, just in 2015, we've seen at least 50 cases that they've been rolled up before they were allowed to do some horrific acts. I mean, we're seeing lots of cases. We're not hearing as much press about that, but they are getting caught before they do these atrocious acts.
Well, Joint Terrorism Task Force, JTTF, made up of the lead agency, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and other agencies, have done an interesting thing under the threat of this 4th of July holiday from ISIS. That is that they've arrested high-value suspects on misdemeanors, and they're holding them through this holiday. It takes upwards of 40 and 50 agents to physically follow one suspect around. So the government simply doesn't have that many agents devoted to following these screwballs around. The ones we work with and others, I'm proud of them for thinking of rolling these little bastards up this time on misdemeanor charges. That certainly reduced the threat here back then.
Well, we're going to go back to Dr. Ashraf Ramallah. He is the president and founder of Voice of the Cops, is voice of the COPTS.org. When you get a chance, go check out their website. They're doing wonderful things. He's going to talk more about the Muslim Brotherhood and how the Arab Spring became, actually, it's a coup now, history shows.
Question, if you will, is our lady friend, lovely Michelle, with us in the chat room?
Not at this time. She's out having a barbecue today and having a shindig is what we say in the South. I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee, so what do you say, shindigs?
Give her our best when she comes on. Give our very best to the chat room people, if you will.
Yeah, thank you to all the chats, and we'll answer some of your questions after the show with Ramallah. We've got about 12 more minutes with him, and he's bringing up some really critical points that all Americans need to hear.
Go, bro.
And this, I could say, I don't want to say with open eyes to a lot of America, who we have at the White House, but moreover, Egyptian knew 100% who the United States have at the White House.
I would love to pick that up after the break. Excuse me. Think about that while we're on a short break, please. Good guess?
NoisyRoom.net. One of our coalition members. The Noisy Room is a conservative Christian blog, covers politics, terrorism, the government, and reveals all the threats by the progressives. Don't miss NoisyRoom.net. Again, NoisyRoom.net.
Back to you, good sir. We have been fascinated with the whole so-called Arab Spring, and we're delighted that Egypt got themselves out of it. It's been a cooked-up disaster from our President of the United States. Over to you, sir. We are fascinated with your views on Egypt denying the terrorist Muslim Brotherhood.
Thank you, sir. Can you say the question one more time, please?
Yes, we're really interested in Egypt's status and how they avoided being run by the Muslim Brotherhood. Of course, a terrorist organization.
Muslim Brotherhood, if you allow me to speak about them for a minute, just to create a little bit of knowledge in simple words here. Muslim Brotherhood was created back in 1928 in Egypt by a man called, his name was Hassan al-Banna. They started as a charity organization, but in reality, they have already their military branch. Since then, they started various kind of assassination. The group who started 1952, Nasser and his group, including Mr. Sadat, they were part members of Muslim Brotherhood. There is various information about Nasser, if he was really a member because he was believed in their mission, or he was a member that he was trying to use them as a power for his rising to the power. And anyway, in 1952, Nasser became the president of. Started the coup. He was not the first president. Muhammad Najib was the first president for 6 months, and they have a second coup that they put Muhammad Najib in the prison, and he was in Azarium until he died. The interesting thing, if we started to analyze what Nasser did, we could see that he was a big damage to the Christian community and Jewish community overall in Egypt. In fact, by the 1960s, he was able to pick out all the Jews from Egypt. Once he get rid of the Jews of Egypt, he put its Islamic supremacy over Christian of Egypt, the Copts. In fact, if we look back before 1960, the immigration of Christian or migration of Egyptians from Egypt was kind of zero. After 1960s, we could see the immigration to the United States, Canada, or Australia start to take place in Egypt for the first time of the Egyptian history. Now, with the Nasser took a lot of good factory and good business from the hands of Christians and nationalize it in order to knock down the Christian economical power. And that's what he did also with the Jews. Born, lived in Egypt for their time, for all their life. When Nasser died in 1970s, Sadat opened the jails for all Muslim Brotherhoods for power, struggle power between them and Nasser. Nasser put them in jail. So that opened the jail for the Muslim Brotherhood in order to fight Nasser ideology. But in the meantime, he was leading them like street dogs against Christian of Egypt. In fact, back in 1981, we had 83 people were killed not far from my parents' apartment in Cairo, just because one of the group of Muslims was trying to pray over a piece of property owned by a Christian person, and the Christian person kicked them out from his property. And this will open a question from one of your listeners. So what's the big deal? They want to pray, why don't leave them to pray? The issue is once they pray in piece of property, they have the right to build a mosque over this piece of land without permission, without paying you any money. They take this land from you because they prayed on it. Anyway, so that has a lot of things around the world trying to make his figure, international figure, by fake peace with Israel, because in reality, the peace with Israel was on the paper only. Muslim Brotherhood increased their power till the moment that they killed him in October 6, 19
Why do you think President Obama and his Secretary of State Clinton installed the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt?
Well, I can't say what for what reason he's doing it, but one thing important that I don't know if your listeners know about is that when Mr. Obama went to Egypt when Mubarak was the president and he made his speech in Cairo University, Mubarak was not present in that speech. And no one in the United States media mentions that or highlight that. The reason that Mubarak didn't go there because the President of the United States requested that Muslim Brotherhood would be attending that speech and be sitting in the first row. So, Mr. President of the United States of America, he could say whatever he wants to say, but from my point of view, he is pro-Muslim Brotherhood, and Mrs. Hillary Clinton, the same thing. In fact, they threw tomatoes against her when she was visiting Egypt after Morsi was president.
Fascinating.
Most of our audience believes that his speech in Cairo was called the Apologize for America speech, and we resent that enormously, of course. So he wanted or didn't want the guy in the front row during the speech. Say that again, please.
Okay, let me try to explain it. If a president in official visit to the country and he had to speak in an audience, usually the host, the president, in that case, Mr. Mubarak, supposed to be present at Mr. Obama's speech in the university. Mubarak was not present because he was not in agreement with Mr. Obama to have members of Muslim Brotherhood sitting in the first row as per Mr. Obama request in his speech. To be in his speech sitting in the first row.
Fascinating. Yeah. Isn't it right?
Yeah, that's wow. That's incredible to hear that. We are so engaged in this to bring up things that we're not hearing on any other media right now that we're talking about. We're getting a lot of questions and a lot of emails, and the chat room's lighting up. This has been a great interview. Want to say, got some more questions coming in from the chat rooms. One of them has been, have political changes in Egypt since the uprising of the January 25th, 2011, termed by the media as the Arab Spring, improved conditions for the Coptic Christians?
Well, it is very hard to improve 60 years of damage in 1 month or 3 months. Personally, I cannot make any, any serious analysis toward this, the actual president of Egypt, Sisi. But I understand if I put myself in his shoes, it's very hard because the 1 year of Mr. Morsi as Muslim Brotherhood president in Egypt, the damage were enormous.
Wow.
And nobody could imagine it. And just to tell you that they had plans to knock down the Sphinx and the pyramids of Egypt.
Wow.
So you could imagine the enormous impact of Muslim Brotherhood towards the Egyptian ancient history. So you could imagine what the impact was the people. They tried to put all the key persons in the key places. Christians of Egypt had only at the time that Morsi was removed. At that 2-3 days, they had 83 churches burned and destroyed.
Wow.
And we are not talking about what happened during 1 year of Mr. Morsi's service as a president. And just to talk about 3 days after he removed.
very interested in what you're saying. Roy, let's take one caller, can we?
Yes, we have a caller here. We're talking to area code 248. Please, if you want to use a handle, go ahead and speak your mind, please.
Yeah, hi, this is Dick at 248, if that's the person you wanted.
Yes,
Hi,
sir.
Dick.
Hi, Dick. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, hi. I got to say, this is an exceptional broadcast. We don't hear this anywhere else. And I want to thank your guest, Dr. Ramallah, as well as you guys for putting it together. My question is, we see Islamic people who support Islam inviting people to pray in the National Cathedral and in the Church of England. My curiosity is, what can you tell us about the Christian community, fellow, we would call them Christians, Catholics? How are you perceived, and is anybody really speaking up for you from the Christian community in America?
Excellent question, Dick. Thanks for the call. Stay with us on MagnifiedView.com. Dr. Ramallah, did you hear the question?
Yeah, I heard the question, and I mean, as Christians, we have our Lord teaches us to love everybody, including and maybe more, to love more our enemy. And the issue is not praying in the National Cathedral or praying in any other place. My question to your listeners: why they need to pray in the National Cathedral, to the Cathedral National Church? The reason is to show that they are here, to show their presence. It is kind of they want to show us that we are here, we can do whatever we want. Concerning the other churches, including the Catholic Church, unfortunately, and I wrote against Pope Francis after his visit to the Middle East, because he stood next to a wall between Gaza and Israel, and they put his hand where the sign was saying that Jews look like the Nazi. And from my point of view, a Christian leader cannot stand next to a sign like that. If he's against war, he's supposed to say, stop fighting, but not standing next to a wall showing that the Jews are like Nazi, where the Jewish are killed by Muslims every day. The big issue that we need to understand that as a Christian, I don't really have any problem that Muslims exist and Muslims pray to whatever they believe, because everybody has the freedom to pray in anything that he wants. I mean, I believe that our Jesus is the Lord, but this is my belief. And if you don't believe it, it is your problem, is your issue. The only thing that I fight against is that you don't have any right to come to me, ask me to convert from my religion or to convert from whatever I believe. Otherwise, I will be killed.
Well said. Well said. You have fascinated our audience. Our chat room is lit up and the emails are pouring in, overloading our computers here in our studio. We are eager to get you back on. The time goes very fast. The last 10 minutes of our program is devoted to the Coalition of American Patriots. Their president, William Palumbo, updates us on what his coalition has been doing this week and where it's going for the coming time. So we've got one more short break, and then we're going to come back to you for a brief summary, and we're going to elicit a promise from you to come back soon. Is that all right?
I would be honored. I would be honored to be with you.
Good.
Energy Efficiency Pros, EE Pros, solutions that save you money. Are you a commercial business looking to reduce costs on your energy bill? Replacing traditional light bulbs with LED results in tremendous savings every month. Commercial, industrial, and manufacturing facilities from coast to coast are saving up to 90% on their skyrocketing costs of energy. Energy costs are rising every month, but using EE Pros lighting saves money, time, and will bring you happier employees and customers. For a free audit and evaluation of your facility, contact or email Don Arrigo, president of EE Pros, at 480-585-9161, 480-585-9161. Tell Don that Backpack of Voices of Global Freedom Radio referred you. Yoda, have you had some experience with this?
I had personally. I spoke with the facility manager of a hospital in Chicago, an underground parking thing in LA. Both are saving in excess of 80% on their energy bill. President Obama boldly, arrogantly promised with his global warming, or whatever he is, to skyrocket our costs, and he has. And yet the sheep sit around and put up with this. I don't quite, be that as it may, EE Pros is saving small business, medium, big business, 80+% on their extraordinary light bills. Is that something or what?
Yeah, that's great. Please go check out eepros.com. I say again, eepros.com. Also honored and privileged to announce that EE Pros has won the Webcaster Awards for energy cost savings. It's on the webcasterawards.com website. What a great interview with Dr. Ashraf Ramallah. He points out a lot of things we're not hearing on mainstream media.
We need to get him back. Well, you have the ability to round up extraordinary guests. Who have we had on recently back there?
Well, we're going to play Lieutenant Colonel Alan B. West. We just had him on, and General Vallely, a wonderful Fox News and their military analyst. We've had Ryan Morrow, who's oftenly quoted in many articles on Fox News. We've had him on. Numerous other people. We're excited to have the prepping community on. Dr. Bones and Amy, they're going to be coming on for next week. We're going to have a prepping show that'll be really interesting.
What a pair to draw to they are. They're good friends. I can't wait to get them back on. They're entertaining. They address the most important thing about preparation and surviving natural or man-made disasters. It's really about medical preparation and a bit of training. People somehow want to worry about having a gun, which you certainly should have, in my opinion, but the real need after any disaster is medical. Injuries spike off the chart, and diseases come shortly thereafter. So I'm really tickled to get the good Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy on. We're going to do an entire prepper show next week, aren't we?
Yeah, we're excited, and this is the real prepper. Certainly, there's a lot of people who open up a shingle and say they're prepping, but this is the real deal. This is the real what prepping's all about.
Well, we have academic experience. We've studied, and we've both been on the ground in these circumstances. So we know what to do, and often it's important in preparation what not to do, brother.
Yeah, when I spent my 4 years traveling across the country, I spent a month in the Appalachian Trails, and one of the things you start to realize, or I realize, is that there's no Walmart. I can't just get to a Walmart. So if my boots are the wrong size or I'm bringing in the wrong food, if I don't have filtered water, I can't just reach out and go to a Walmart. And that's one of the things, once you're out there in the trails or even in the cities, without the right kit and the right survival knowledge, you're SOL.
My favorite one is a lot of people create some little shack 100 miles away in the woods. I can't imagine you'd prepare at home and you'd be together. Why the hell you'd want to leave all your preparation and try to get 100-mile into some shack? But we will promise them from experience they won't get there anyway. The minute a natural disaster occurs, or man-made, doesn't matter, roads gridlock. I've seen it gridlock personally within 30 minutes. I've been lit up with a siren and a light bar and a police car within 30 minutes of wildfires here in Southern California. Even in a police car, it's total gridlock. You can't get from A to B. So they're certainly not going to go to their shelter 100 miles away from home. I'm excited about the show. I'm excited about all the shows.
Yeah, that's great. We're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back with Lieutenant Colonel Alan B. West. This is Backpack. We want to tell you about a brave American hero, the Magnified View Voices of Global Freedom Patriotic Hero Award. We are honored and privileged to work with Major General Paul E. Vallely, United States Army retired, exposes multiple Islamic jihadist threats to America's homeland. He graduated United States Military Academy at West Point and was commissioned in the Army in 1961, serving a distinguished career for 32 years. He is a military analyst on television and radio, and he is the chairman of Stand Up America, a network of patriotic Americans that collects, analyzes, and evaluates intelligence for the safety and security of America. Over to you, Yoda.
He's a soldier. Back in the day, when he graduated West Point and shortly thereafter, a career death knell was Special Forces, Rangers, even airborne units. Somehow he did it all. He did the Ranger program. He was a jump master airborne. And despite the stodgy Pentagon back then, his career matriculated to Major General. Quite a guy. I salute the good general.
Please have a look at standupamericaus.org. I say again, standupamericaus.org. We're honored and privileged to be working with them. We're back here with Lieutenant Colonel Alan B. West. Without further ado, we'll go ahead and play his updated site rep on what's going on with the Middle East and Iraq.
Oh, bro.
Welcome to Voices of Global Freedom Special Edition. We are privileged and proud to have with us Lieutenant Colonel West, United States Army retired, who will share his insider experience about national security, foreign policy, and the global war against radical Islam and other threats to America. He is the president and CEO of Dallas-based National Center for Policy Analysis, ncpa.org. Over to you, Yoda.
The good colonel is the soldier. I'm personally interested in his views on President Obama pulling our troops out of Iraq now, sending 450 over without a forward air controller in the bunch. Good afternoon, Colonel.
Hey, how you guys doing? It's good to be with you, Yoda and Backpack. Well, I will tell you that it will probably go down as the greatest military blunder in history to completely have zeroed out our forces that were there and not to listen to your commanding generals on the ground and their request for a residual force. You know, anytime that you think that a campaign promise and campaign rhetoric is more important than, sound national security strategy, you get exactly what you have in Iraq, where you created a vacuum. Al-Qaeda in Iraq, who have been defeated, has reconstituted as ISIS. And, we don't have a plan. We don't have a strategy. 450 troops, that is not a strategy. If anything, as I said before, it's a Band-Aid on a sucking chest wound. So, we don't have a task and purpose. We don't have a command and control structure. And it is really what those of us in the military hate, and that's called mission creep. the facade of doing something when actually you are doing nothing. Because 450 more troops on top of the 3,000 that we already have there, they have not stopped ISIS's advance. They have not adequately trained the Iraqi forces. As a matter of fact, we now have more of our forces over there that are being, having trained Iraqis. I mean, I think you only have about 2,598, but of that 2,598, 800 are Kurds, 1,798 are Shia. There are no Sunnis being trained. And at least when we were there, and we had our command and control structure on the ground, we had a mandated integration of the Iraqi military. But as soon as the president makes his declaration that we're going to, 100% pull out, al-Maliki purged all of the Sunni leaders, and therefore, if you purge the Sunni leaders, the Sunnis are not going to fight there. And guess what? ISIS has come in and taken those large swaths of territory that are Sunni, and furthermore, they're killing and beheading those tribal leaders of the Sunni awakening that worked with us back previously.
Why don't we have forward air controllers in Iraq fighting ISIS?
I don't think that this administration, which I believe most of the military decisions are being made by General Valerie Jarrett, who has, I guess, immense amounts of operational tactical military experience, knows what they're doing. The fact that they are just running about 14 to 20 sorties a day, that's below anemic. And you read the reports, many of the colleagues are complaining about the restrictive rules of engagement and the fact that they're coming back with full ordnance, after they have flown a mission. Well, if you don't have those eyes on the ground that can properly laze and identify targets, that's what's going to occur. So you don't have the forward air controllers because in the mindset of the Obama administration, that means they're back in combat operations. And they just have such a recalcitrance and a reticence to say that they were wrong in pulling all the troops out and that they have to re-engage. And so now, the big word coming out of Washington, D.C., I was just up there this past week for a few days, is that, Iraq is lost and it might as well be partitioned into three different areas, the Kurdish area, the Sunni area, and the Shia area. That did not have to be the case. This is something that the president has done, and now President Obama is responsible for destabilizing two countries in that region, Libya and now Iraq.
Do you see him going for Saudi Arabia, Colonel?
No, the Saudis are out cutting their own deals. And as a matter of fact, there are reports I've read in Times of Israel and a few others that Saudi Arabia is, talking with Pakistan about getting a nuclear weapon because they're not going to sit back and allow Iran to get that type of capability or capacity. The Saudis are talking with the other Gulf Cooperation Council states, such as the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Oman, because they are not going to sit back and watch these incredibly militant, barbaric Islamists take over. ISIS is already running suicide bomber attacks in Saudi Arabia, so they realize that the little Frankenstein monster that they have allowed to grow, they got to do something about. So watch and see if you all of a sudden have a very unique alliance between Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and Israel.
One of a kind, first time in my word. It's a fast track, Colonel. Where do you see the caliphate really going as we're the United States doing so little?
Well, right now, when you think about it, ISIS has, control of a large swath of territory in Iraq and Syria and also establishing itself in Libya. They have a command and control structure. They have ministries. They are establishing a state. They're establishing trade, because the oil that they are, pirating, they're selling it through Turkey. And so they're establishing themselves. And there's a reason why, recent reports with that Al-Qaeda is going bankrupt and having to sell off assets because ISIS seems like the winning team. They're not hiding away in caves or anything like that. They're out front. They're out, there, and they're taking
1/4 of the world's people are Muslim indeed. What are the Spec Ops people really doing trying to train the Sunnis from?
Well, nothing, because none of them are being trained right now, and that's what we're told, that the new 450 that are going over, they're going to reestablish a base in Anbar province, when the last base in Anbar province was abandoned al-Assad because of ISIS taking over Ramadi. So, I just don't know if a lot of this country, of the American people, are paying attention to what is happening. But it's a complete collapse and breakdown. It's nothing but deception and deceit and spin coming from the Obama administration and the White House spokesperson, Josh Earnest. So there are no Sunnis being trained, and I don't understand of any plan to do so. I mean, we've heard about this plan to train, Syrian insurgents to fight against the Islamist forces there. I don't know where that is. They're supposed to be getting trained in Jordan. No one has said anything else about it. I just think that there's a lot of smoke and mirrors that are coming from this administration. And look, we're just talking about one region, that's the Middle East. Think about what's going on in the Ukraine, the Baltic states with Russia. Think about what's going on in the South China Sea with China itself. So there are many different flashpoints that we have to really be concerned about.
I was an Army guy, not like you were. What's China's ambition for the Pacific? We don't understand that really. What's their real goal?
Well, I think what China is doing is looking to extend its regional hegemonic dominance. The fact that they are building islands in the South China Sea, miles and miles away from Chinese waters, and basically putting military armaments on a sea lane of commerce where about 35 to 40% of the world's trade by sea transits. They are threatening the Philippines and the Scarborough Shoals. They are threatening and taking away from Japan the Senkaku Islands. Vietnam is concerned. Taiwan is concerned. And, we're doing nothing. Of course, we know about the cyber attack where I believe some 4 million people in the federal government had their records compromised. And this came from China. So there's so many things that are going on. And we have an administration that is totally lost. Like I said, they have no plan, no strategy. It is almost as if they're trying to play a wait-out game for the next 18 months.
Wow. We hear from the Pentagon that we're no longer, and for the first time, able to fight on two fronts. If we're engaged in the Middle East, what are the odds, what's the probability of North Korea attacking South Korea, or in addition, the Chinese taking over their ambition to take over Formosa and Taiwan?
Well, the North Koreans have constantly, they shelled the islands there in South Korea. They sunk a South Korean naval vessel not too long, I think 2 or 3 years ago. So as long as the Chinese feel emboldened and they are showing their belligerence, North Korea with Kim Jong, the little fat guy with a funny haircut, will continue to do the exact same thing. Because right now, the despots, the dictators, the theocrats, and the autocrats of the world realize that they have a president in the United States of America that's not going to do a single thing. He's just going to sit back and, like I said, try to wait this thing out. And I don't know what type of legacy he is thinking about. Allowing Iran to have a nuclear capability and lifting the sanctions, that's not the kind of legacy that I would want. But, I'm not President Barack Obama.
Well, we're sure glad you're not, Colonel.
Well, you spent time in Afghanistan. What were some of your experiences?
Well, I was down in southern Afghanistan working with the 205th Afghan National Army Corps, getting them stood up and getting them placed out in the surrounding provinces, not just out of Kandahar, Zabul province, Uruzgan, and also Kandahar. So I had some great experiences there in 2005, 2007. But when we transitioned to the NATO leadership down to southern Afghanistan, I saw a lot of the gains that had been made. We lost them because we went away from really taking the fight to the enemy and driving the Taliban away to Kandahar became the responsibility of the Canadians. Helmand was the responsibility of the British. Uruzgan was the responsibility of the Dutch. And Zabul province was the responsibility of the Romanians. And, each one of those different countries had their respective rules of engagement and support agreement. roads and all this type of thing. Although I was very pleased to see little girls be able to go to school, but you got to be able to defeat the enemy first.
Totally agree, Colonel. I've traveled the Middle East, traveled Morocco to Egypt and throughout the peninsula. They've been at it 1,500 years. I don't see them changing at all. What are your thoughts on our continuous nation building and creating democracy, sir?
I think that's a false objective. I'm not looking at trying to make a country like the United States of America. What I think the most important thing is to convey the message that if you allow the enemy within your borders, we're going to come in there, we're going to root them out. We have to be very specific in finding who the enemy is. It's not a war on terror. It's a war against Islamic fascism or Islamic totalitarianism or jihadism. And it's a global movement. We have to be able to see it that way. So it is not about, going out there and saying, well, we're going to, have you write a new constitution. No. I just want to make sure that you fear us more than you fear them so that you don't give them a base and a place of sanctuary.
Our insiders, we've got some wonderful insiders. We've been at this a long time. Believe and hold that Obama will continue the non-course that he's been on. We don't see him changing at all, Colonel.
Well, no, of course he's not. We have a president that is a very intransigent ideologue, and for whatever reason, he lives in a bubble world where he thinks that everything is going great. Maybe according to his plan, it's going great, but not according to any, real true measure of effectiveness. Our economy is anemic. When you have an annualized GDP growth over the time he's been president of less than 2%, we are failing as far as our energy capability, the oil and natural gas that we have. We should be producing, manufacturing it, exporting it, using it ourselves, but we're not. And our tax policies that we have is horrific, and we continue to hear about, punishing, those people who are going out there and trying to be a part of the opportunity society and opportunity economy because they want, more dependency.
Back. We are Voices. Pick it up.
Voices of Global Freedom, exclusive interview with Lieutenant Colonel Alan B. West, United States Army retired. Colonel, and what are some of your experiences about where is ISIS going?
Well, ISIS is going to continue to go wherever it seems that they want to go. They're going to continue to expand. Their recruiting is picking up, and in their mindset, they're being successful. And truthfully, that's pretty much how people see it. So I think that as they see that situation deteriorating in Iraq, they're going to try to capitalize on that and build an Islamic caliphate based upon there. And they don't feel that they have to stop. So they're going to turn their eyes toward Jordan because they don't respect secular Islamic leadership, toward Lebanon. Of course, Iran, being Shia, is trying to, use Hezbollah as a bulwark against them. And then, of course, Jabhat al-Nusra and this operating in Syria as well. They can link up forces with them and start waging attacks against Israel. So it's just a very, very bad situation.
That's amazing that we continue to so-called negotiate with Iran, with the Ayatollah claiming death to America. They recently said that anything about Israel not being destroyed is off the table. What's his name breaking his leg on a bloody bicycle? Do you see they're getting nuclear weapons inevitable?
Yeah, I do. Unfortunately, we know that they have had a 20% increase in the enrichment of uranium while we were, quote-unquote, going through these talks. And now we're finding out that they will be able to keep, upwards to about or above 5,000 centrifuges operating. And we're just giving up to them. They have 4 Americans hostage. Jason Resnian of the Washington Post, Saeed Abedini, a Christian pastor, Amir Hekmati, a former United States Marine, and Robert Levinson, who is from
friends, a senior lady in Atlanta, your old hometown, Eleanor, before the program, has asked, as have others, Backpack, hats off to him, has pre-promoted your stunning appearance with us, and we've got a lot of questions about what you're up to now, sir.
Yeah, I'm working with the National Center for Policy Analysis in Dallas, Texas. We are a 31-year-old conservative free market policy center, think tank. We look into matters, areas of tax policy, entitlement, education, energy, healthcare, and national security. And we appreciate you following us at www.ncpa.org and also supporting us. We're about to kick off a national grassroots campaign next week where we're looking for 10,000 people across the United States of America to become $25 or $50 donors to the NCPA.
How can we help you?
Well, spread that word. You know, the actual campaign kicks off next Tuesday, and we want to be able to have 10,000 new monthly donors to the NCPA by the 4th of July, and we call it the become one of the 1 in 10,000, and it follows the incredible campaign and the trek of the Greek mercenary army being led by Xenophon after the campaign against Artaxerxes II in 401 to 399 BC. It's called the March of the 10,000. We want 10,000 people to march with us through the ideological hostile territory so we can restore this great republic. So, be on the lookout for that. But again, we are looking for 10,000 new monthly donors for the next 6 months at $25 to $50, and we will set people out a very special, very nice pen and lapel pin, and that campaign kicks off next week, Tuesday.
We're all in with you. I'll talk with you off air. Our sister magazine, MagnifiedView.com, has millions of visitors. It's 5 years young. We work closely with our radio program, Voices of Global Freedom, and the MagnifiedView.com. If you will, sir, I'll talk with you off air about a campaign we'll start for you. We are non-monetized. By that, we're fortunate in doing what we damn well please with both magazine and the radio program. So we want to go all in with you.
Oh, well, let's do it.
Good on you, sir. What else would you like to cover, good Colonel? What do we need to know?
That's about it. I tell you what, it's been a pleasure talking to you, but I think the most important thing is we got to get people engaged, involved, and knowledgeable about what is happening in our country, and we want to edify folks so they can make the right decisions come election time. And so again,
are you endorsing anyone?
www.ncpa.org, National Center for Policy Analysis, and again, become one of 10,000 and join us in our national grassroots campaign so we can continue to do the great policy work that we do here for the past 31 years. So that's it from me.
Count us in. Are you endorsing anyone on the Republican side?
Oh, no, it's way too early. We still got 4 more people that look like they're going to announce it. So, because we're a 501c3, I can't, publicly endorse anyone. I just want to see someone that is ready to step up and be a strong commander-in-chief. We need a Churchill.
I've got to ask you, you have any thoughts about being pushed into the race?
No, look, I am very pleased and honored that, God would have called and given me this position here at NCPA, but, I will always be a humble and obedient servant to God and country.
Well, as we are. Not flattering, Colonel, I don't do that. It's silly and stupid, but compliments are due when they are. In Backpack's pre-promotion of your appearance with us, everyone almost has asked if you're running for president and wants you to, don't they?
Yeah, my mom, Eleanor in Atlanta, she wants you to run, and she's a huge fan, among many of other millions of fans.
Well, that's my hometown stomping grounds. I'm a graduate of Henry Grady High School and went to the University of Tennessee just like you did, Backpack, and it's a pleasure to have so many folks that would entrust me in that way.
Colonel, thanks for the appearance, for gracing us. We're going to get you on again, if you will. Off you go once again to save the republic, save for democracy. We thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Airborne.
Airborne all the way.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Bye-bye.
Welcome to Voices of...
What another great interview with Lieutenant Colonel Alan B. West.
What a guy. It's heartening, the people we're getting on, the kind of people that are going to stand up when it's really time to stand up, back, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And we want to say a salute to all our veterans and military out there that they've sacrificed so that we may live free and have these radio shows and be able to have MagnifiedView.com magazine. So many throughout the history of the United States we're looking at 239 years now, have sacrificed, have been injured, and have died on the battlefields, whether it's Normandy in France to get rid of the Hitler, or now what we're facing in the Middle East. And we want to salute you and say thank you to all the families and all the people who have sacrificed and died and been injured over the 239 years of our great republic, the United States of America.
Well said, Backpack. I want to add our first responders, the thin blue line out there, now besieged, under siege by President Obama and his crowd. The war on cops, inexplicable, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And one of our close friends who we talk to very often to get site rep updates is Lieutenant Randy Sutton. He is the national spokesman for Defending the Shield. It's defendingtheshield.org. I say again, defendingtheshield.org. Great organization. If you Google his name, Lieutenant Randy Sutton, on YouTube, along with Fox and Friends, he's on about every couple weeks with Fox and Friends, giving us updates.
Good friend of ours. I want to add the firefighters, which we coppers, in some little friendly rivalry called shingle pickers, want to add them. Certainly all the federal agent heroes that we work with all the agencies. And, of course, the medics that are running around out there saving everybody. Shows you a bit about terrorism, how easy it is. Ilyich Lenin said, terrorism exists to terrorize. Well, look at this weekend. So far, so good, with an excellent response by law enforcement. And hats off to the Joint Terrorism Task Force, so-called JTTF. Look at what ISIS managed with a bunch of activity on the internet. What do they send out every day on social media?
Well, we're seeing over 90,000 tweets and who knows, hundred thousands of Facebook posts that are going out there far and wide.
So far, so good. We've not had a threat this holiday weekend, which their chatter's been up. And in fact, a former deputy director of the Central Intelligence Agency recently said, what did he say, Roy?
The recent deputy, he said, be on vigilance over the July 4th weekend. But there's a lot, we need to be at high alert right now over this weekend because ISIS has already put out a lot of chatter about threats.
If I'm not mistaken, he said also, a week from when he broadcast this, he wouldn't be surprised at all to be sitting around on television talking about the attack we suffered here. Amazing. Look how easy it is for terrorists to operate against a free society, would you?
Yeah, one of the key points Lieutenant Colonel Alan B. West made, he talked about how we need to be more fearsome in the eyes of these terrorists and bad guys than the other way around. And right now, we have a president playing golf and wearing frou-frou clothes, putting green lipstick on and prancing around to all these podcast shows. He's been on a lot of shows lately, and he's coming across as just you can't believe, very unproductive, without using some of the words we can't even use. He's used certain words on other shows that we won't use here. And we just can't believe this president who represents the greatest country, United States of America. Can we believe some of the things he said on some other shows lately? Wow.
Well, how'd you like recently dressing the White House up at night in rainbow colors. I'll bet in our glorious Independence weekend, I'll bet he doesn't have the White House up in red, white, and blue. What do you think?
Yeah, there's some talk about that President Obama is trying to get rid of the American flag altogether, and that's a subject for a whole other show. We'll find the right guest to get on, but that's a real heated thing going on right now, and the Supreme Court has made it legal to burn and destroy the American flag, which I know in a lot of places, a lot of my friends, they will not let that happen because so many people died and sacrificed their lives for the American flag.
Well, they have indeed. This weekend, there's a bunch of them coast to coast. The ones he just entertained at the White House, setting up flag burning venues from New York out here to California. Freaking amazing, isn't it?
Well, we just can't believe this President Obama, what he's been doing. He did promise in 2008 fundamental change, and he really is changing it from the bottom up. The country is significantly different in the last 7 years or 8 years that he's been, coming up on another 18 months. We're just every day. Now he's normalized so-called with Cuba and with Iran. He's trying to, and Venezuela. What are your thoughts about recent news that he's trying to join forces with Cuba and Venezuela and Iran?
We actually has another terrorist state. His move on that one, which is another inexplicable Obama, is he's really found a clever way to shut down Gitmo and bring all those heathens back on the battlefield to fight once again against us. He recently praised Venezuela. He said he's hooking them up with Cuba. Venezuela now is on a stone ration. You go to a store to get a pound of butter with your ration card and find out that they're out of it. Since they've turned utterly socialistic at the corner of communism, he's very proud now that he talked to the president of Venezuela last week. He's all excited about working closely with them. It's pure socialism there now. They're about to run out of food. What the hell is he thinking about back then?
Well, it's just amazing what's going on. Every day we see something new that we're going to have Todd Bubba Horowitz and also talk about Greece has closed down all the banks and they defaulted on the loans. And a lot of people want to know, where is all this going? Are they going to be kicked out of the euro? But so he's our economic finance wizard. We've had Todd Bubba Horowitz. We're going to work with him in the coming weeks a lot to see where is all this economics. He's really concerned with Spain and Portugal and all these other countries defaulting. From what I've seen, a lot of things were done as Band-Aids from 2007 to 2015. The stock market's gone up about triple, but a lot of it is smoke and mirrors, as Lieutenant Colonel Alan B. West points out, to make people feel good. But, what's going to happen with all of that? We're going to talk to our expert, Todd Horowitz, also known as Bubba.
We've got some great friends, don't we?
Yeah, we really do. It's a really great to work with so many wonderful people, and we are learning so much from them. We're going to take a brief national anthem girl and talk about her. She has been on our show before. She did 50 states that she did the national anthem girl. It took her years and years to do this, and it wasn't a small venue like a cul-de-sac. She was in front of 50,000 people at professional football games and all kinds of things. So we're going to do a short break here for the national anthem and the United States of America flag.
Take the anthem national.
This weekend, the nation celebrates 200 years of the Star-Spangled Banner. But tonight, we have the story of a woman who started the celebration a bit early, hitting the road with the intent of performing the national anthem in every corner of this country.
Performing our national anthem in all 50 states, from Madison Square Garden to a street corner in Idaho.
I saw one girl, 50 different states.
Janine Stagg has sung this song so many times.
Janine Stagg is back because she has just completed that mission.
for 90 seconds. No matter who you voted for, no matter what team you want to win, we are one nation. We have one song, and this is our song. And the home of the brave. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave.
All
right.
Oh, it takes me back way back then.
Yeah, what an incredible song. Let's hope that we can still keep the Star Spangled Banner. It has a lot of history.
We will indeed. I am supremely confident every generation since we were founded on the first Independence Day has come across a real mortal challenge. First World War, Second World War, Great Depressions, on and on and on. Our generation now is, of course, confronted with the ISIS and other challenges. I am supremely confident the good guys will prevail. There are millions of people in the Army. And the services, of course. There are 800,000 former soldiers, now veterans, not counting their families. There are thousands and thousands of coppers, firefighters, and good people just stand up, everyday Americans that will stand up when it gets bad enough. I do believe, brother, we're in for a rough road until it gets bad enough, but I'm confident we will prevail and overcome.
I know we have a lot of friends when they see Obama's latest thing, and we want them just to go back and play golf, but every day a lot of people are wanting to take their gun and just shoot the television set, and I can understand that. They're so frustrated with what's next. What's he going to come out with in the next 18 months?
Every day something different, isn't it?
Yeah, that's for sure. We want to see us get out of this fundamental transformation and get back to where we used to be. So we'll see in the coming days. It's always interesting to stay on top of the news. MagnifiedView.com, analysis of news you can use. Check out our latest article that just came out in the last couple days about how to be prepared visually and be prepared for what might happen. We're hoping everything will be fine July 4th, but it's always good to stay situationally aware.
Well, all the best to all our close friends. Our dear man Garbo, who heads up
TopTalkRadio.com. Go check out, I say again, TopTalkRadio.com. We're honored and privileged to be on there. If you look for the Yoda and backpack, you'll see our icon on there. He's been a really staunch help, and we're also on the board of directors for his foundation. He does a wonderful job of promoting conservative talk radio. And go ahead and check out LeadingEdgeRadioNetwork.com. One of our great friends, Stryker, who runs that organization. Great place to work with. We're honored and privileged to be working with Stryker. We're constantly getting updates and information about what's going on. And another thing is we've got friends from all over the parts of the country. We've got Stryker in Texas. We have Garborough in Atlanta. And another great friend is Bubba in Chicago, Todd Horowitz, who we work closely with. We have also dear friend Ricky Robinson located in Kansas. He is also doing great things with K98 Talk, and he has his own network called Leading Edge Radio Network, or I should say the Spark Radio Network. So we have friends from all over the country, and we count on them and the world, as we just had with Dr. Ashraf Ramallah, who are giving us updates. And there's nothing like getting it from the source, from ground zero, so to speak, from the ground. And we're getting a lot of that information.
Last but not least, our dear friend Annie of Southern Sense.
Yeah, check out southern-sense.com and the Pundit Press. We have Annie, the radio chick, southern-sense.com. We've been on each other's shows quite often. And Dan Butcher, the Pundit Press, and also Sean with SHR Media. Go check out, great people to work with. And there's also Red State Talk Radio, which has been working a lot to get a lot of the word out about where the country needs to go. So we're honored and privileged to be working with all those great folks.
Tim Kalin, of course, Impact Analytics, our satellite office in Florida.
Yeah, please check out punchingbagpost.com, his website. Great conservative consortium email of all the great news coming out. We're also working on another website called oathguards.com. It'll be open up to all Americans except for anyone who is subordinate to Sharia law, but it's called oathguards.com, and that's coming out soon. It's ready for people to sign up. It's free to sign up, and we're having a lot of interest in that because it's people willing to take the oath to defend our Constitution, and that's bringing a lot more awareness, but eventually it's going to be an alternative to the Boy Scouts of America. That's the intent of it, to grow in such a way to bring back the traditional conservative values that the Boy Scouts used to be.
Good job, Backpack. Always a pleasure working with you. Happiest 4th of July to all that great audience, without which we wouldn't have a program, would we?
Yeah, I want to say a huge thank you to all our audience, our hundreds of thousands of listeners, all through social media and through every way that we get out there. We have the Magnified View Consortium email list. You can check with Sideband to subscribe to our magnifiedview.com website list through impactanalytics.com. It's got over 180,000 people that are signed up for the list. It goes out far and wide. So thank you, Sideband, Tim Kalin, for that.
It's all good. Well, wrap it up, Backpack.
Well, we've had a great show, and we're looking forward to next week. We're going to have all about prepping. So we're going to talk a lot about, if we hope that everything is going along smoothly, but in case, it's always good to have, we're going to talk about the importance of the medical is really the number one thing to look at if things fall apart. And we're excited to have Dr. Bones and Amy on, who have been in the prepping world for quite some time.
They're a pair to draw to. I'm really excited about next week's show, Backpack.
Yeah, we're excited to connect with them, and we really am glad to work with people who really know prepping and will tell it how it is. So I want to say thank you to all the people, all the listeners, and God bless you. God bless America, and happy July 4th. Enjoy the weekend.
Good to go, brother.
All right.
The leader in talk radio on the internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.